The Rip City Drive.
Let's start out with this. The 49ers have made a decision with the Jimmy Garoppolo injury to move forward with Brock Purdy instead of bringing in Baker or somebody else from the outside. What's your take on Purdy and what he might be able to do to keep that ship afloat until maybe Garoppolo can return come playoff time?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's two things. First, I think, Brock Purdy's a talented player. He wouldn't be in the NFL if he wasn't. Kyle Shanahan wouldn't have, taken him and put him on that roster if he wasn't. I look back to when Purdy was at Iowa State and, some of the things he did. Iowa State's perennially not a contender, and Washington State had to play them in 2018 in the Alamo Bowl when they were highly ranked, and Matt Campbell's done a great job there. But a lot of that was Purdy, right? They had a great quarterback, played for a long time. They had David Montgomery, the running back, also who's in the NFL. But I think that speaks to the type of player Purdy is, that he can kind of elevate a college program like Iowa State and then carry that now into his experience in the NFL. I think he's a high confidence guy. And when you play for Kyle Shanahan, you feel like you always have a chance because he's such a good play caller and he puts you in a great situation all the time and he coaches you up so well on the offense. I think the 49ers can tread water and can make it work. They have a good enough roster. At some point, Brock Purdy's going to have to make a couple plays, right? He can't be protected all along. And so we'll see if he's got the ability to do that.
Okay, I'm curious about this, Alex. The Rams stepped in and claimed Baker Mayfield off of waivers, and so the Niners really couldn't get to him. But I'm wondering if they could have. Would he have been a fit with Shanahan? Do you think that could have worked? What would your feeling be on that?
Not to say he, would have or wouldn't have been a fit. I think at this point, knowing Kyle, I think he wants to play with the guys that have been in his system and been in and around his system, right? And that's why he feels confident, taking guys that maybe were third string or practice squad or whatever and elevating them and letting them play. And, he did that a couple of years ago, and it's, the name's lost on me, but you guys recall, right? Like he won games with he's won games with third string quarterbacks before. And so I think, he feels like the ability to coach those guys, have them in the system, be in the room with them for a length of time is better than bringing a guy in potentially off the street. Whether he's a good culture fit or good personality fit or whatnot, it's just hard to do, right?
Yeah, there's no question. I wonder with the Rams, too, with McVay. We don't know what Matthew Stafford's future holds long term. Maybe it's a chance for them to get a jump start on a potential gap if Stafford were not to return with the concussion concerns. But for Baker, if you're trying to rejuvenate your career, what do you think about that match in terms of working with one of the best in McVay to possibly get him rehabilitated?
Yeah, I was going to say, no better place, right, for a guy like Baker Mayfield to go and earn those opportunities, earn that opportunity. He's got a lot, when you talk about kind of revitalizing your career or image or, playing image, whatever you want to say, there's no doubt that, Mayfield's got to find some consistency if he's going to stay in the NFL long term. I think everybody can agree that he's got the ability, pure ability to throw the football. He's got the mentality. He's had his high moments, but he's not consistent. And I think the system, specifically under Sean McVay, and really anybody in that coaching tree, it is very quarterback friendly. It's run game heavy. It's screens. It is play action pass. You're not getting asked to drop back and throw consistently. And it's just well-designed football for a quarterback. And I think that has a chance to benefit, obviously, Baker Mayfield, really any quarterback. We saw the same to some degree with Stafford. Stafford's much better than Baker Mayfield, but we saw what it did for Stafford last year. So I think it could be a great match. I think Baker Mayfield should be fired up that he has a chance to be in the building with those guys.
All right, Alex, I've waited long enough. Time to talk about the biggest story in college football. Deion to Colorado. Give me your take.
Well, I think the Pac-12 should be put on notice from the sense that, Deion has got a lot of cachet around his name. He's going to bring, you've already seen it in just a week or so, the number of high-level recruits he's going to probably bring with him from Jackson State, including his own son. The number of guys are going to want to play for him because he's Deion Sanders, because he's had success, because of who he is. And so I think those things, it makes Colorado, which, I've always thought Colorado is kind of a sleeping giant in the sense that Boulders a beautiful place, great access when you talk about Denver, Colorado. Everybody says 300 days of sunshine a year, no matter how cold you feel like it is. They have great facilities, and they've got a national championship banner hung, right? So it's a place that feels like it can win. And, if Dion gets that thing going, the Buffaloes could be dangerous. So I think it's a huge story in college football. There's a lot of layers to it for sure. I'll be interested to see how the transfer portal and NIL and all those things play into it. But there's no doubt one thing Dion is going to bring, which is a brashness and kind of this level of charisma that really makes everybody else in the room have to step up. And it's going to make everybody on the recruiting trail and everybody that's out, trying to get recruits, they're going to have to match his energy every time. And I think that's a good thing ultimately for the Pac-12. And look, in the age currently of media rights deals, questions, and all these things, having Deion Sanders in the Pac-12 is a net benefit for that league and for West Coast football.
Okay, Alex, the one thing that he's bringing in addition to that is his son, the quarterback. Do you have any idea how good he is and whether he can take that next step up to playing in the Pac-12?
To be fair, I don't have a ton of insight. I think he's, I knew him, watched him come out of high school. I mean, he was an FBS level recruit that, whether that was because he was Deion's son or not, he ended up going to Jackson State to be with his dad, which I understand. And, now we'll see if he can make the jump. I think, but from what I've seen, he has the talent and he's gifted enough. The danger always with any of this, whether you're the son of the head coach or not, is, kind of what is the level of expectation that comes with it? And then what's your maturity level of handling that as things go up and down? Because inevitably they will. And so that's my fear. I mean, there's, when you talk about, even when you talk about high-level transfer quarterback anywhere, you have expectation. Now you're the head coach's son, and that head coach also has a high level of expectation, and you've basically been promised the starting quarterback job. There's a lot going into that that young man's going to have to manage.
We're talking to Alex Brink here on the Rip City Drive. What's your read of Bo Nix committing to play in the Holiday Bowl against North Carolina?
I think it speaks to kind of who Bo Nix is as, a competitor, frankly. Look, let's go back to his experience at Auburn over the last, 3 years. And now compare it to the year that he had at Oregon and the excitement and frankly, the joy it appeared he had playing the game of football that it didn't appear he had at Auburn probably since his freshman year. I think he just feels very fortunate to have this opportunity and wants to go out and do it one more time potentially, or maybe do it and springboard into next year and have an opportunity there. I think my read on what his future might be is still a little cloudy in that, he may be weighing those options potentially. But I think specifically with the bowl game, I think this young man loves his experience in Oregon and loves playing football and wants to go do it again.
Alex, there's over 1,000 players now in the portal. I mean, I don't know. When that thing was put together, I'm not sure people realized. They probably should have, but I don't know if they realized together with NIL what a big deal it would be. But it's incredible, is it not?
Mind-blowing. I have a quick soapbox on how I would fix NIL right away.
Good.
I think that you should not be able to receive NIL money coming out of high school, and you should not be able to receive NIL money if you are not on the roster of the school currently. So you could receive NIL money from your school when you're on the roster, but then you would avoid a ton of issues around, one, recruiting incentives, obviously, and then two, transfer portal, where frankly what's happening now is a lot of athletes that are talented and have success maybe as freshmen or sophomores at a school are just going into the portal to see if, Notre Dame will pay him $100,000 to go play whatever position, or Michigan will pay him. You know what I mean? It's just they're testing the quote unquote free agent waters, and then if they don't get the money, they can always come back, right? Or maybe their current school offers them the same amount of money or a little bit lower, and they stay. So I think you remove NIL, because the whole idea of NIL, right, is you making money off your name, image, and likeness because of the success you had on the field that you developed potentially at a school you're at. So let's let's put that guardrail up. I think it would fix immediately at least some of the problems you're seeing with all of this.
All right, another guy who's going to make his return. He announced him. What about Michael Penix coming back to Washington? What a big boom it is for the Huskies, not right?
Wow, how about that? Yeah, I mean, that's huge for the Huskies. Speaks to, I think, what Kalen DeBoer is doing as a head coach, the culture he's built, for sure. He obviously had a relationship with Penix from Indiana previously. Ryan Grubb, the offensive coordinator, is a really, I think, a really gifted play caller. So I think all of that plays into it. And I think in the end, we talked about, I believe, last week, is that I think Penix needs to show that he can be healthy 2 years in a row and do it again, really, for his draft stock to be where he wants it to be. Because I think he's got the physical tools to be an upper-tier draft pick in the NFL. But right now, he doesn't have the depth of resume because he got injured so much at Indiana.
Alex, I know how well plugged in you are, particularly with quarterbacks, and I'm curious what you've heard about the portal and about NIL in terms of what kind of money is being offered out there. Have you heard anything? I mean, we keep hearing stories of really millions of dollars being thrown around, and when you look at a guy like Bo Nix, I mean, you have people down in Oregon, I'm sure, that are saying, hey, Bo, if you want to come back to Oregon, here's what we can do for you.
Yeah, I think you can get into kind of the low seven figures potentially, and even that's not guaranteed. That's the important part to remember, and all that is, even if a guy is getting offered, $1 million or whatever it is, 1.5, it's still is weirdly tied. It's not tied to play because it can't technically be tied to play, but there's all these cutouts on how people are kind of offering these packages, whether they're not all cash or you got to stay X number of months or whatever it is. So I think the numbers are gaudy. Obviously, I mean it's you would never have imagined this 2 years ago, but I think some of it is getting inflated significantly. And I think people also, even with those high numbers, aren't appreciating the fact that, that's not a check being written, handed over, on day one.
Alex, I've got so much respect for Kyle Whittingham and the work he's done throughout the course of his career and what he's doing right now with the Utes. What was your take on the way he handled last week, where he came out with the us against the world mentality, where he's like, hey, USC's already won the game. They're already going to the playoff. Why should we even show up? And then he gets out there in the Pac-12 title game and his team physically kicked USC's ass. What was your read on that situation?
I mean, kind of classic Kyle Whittingham, Morgan Scalley's defensive coordinator, they do such a good job motivating those players. One thing we knew about Utah is that they were a veteran physical defense, and that was one thing they had going for them. And once they smelled blood in the water, right? Once Caleb Williams got nicked up, I mean, it was one of those things where it felt inevitable. And look, you to be honest, you definitely saw the downside of kind of the bringing in the mercenary army side of college football, right? I mean, the USC flat out quit. I mean, there's no doubt about it. Caleb Williams didn't quit. I mean, he battled, I felt like, the whole time. But, that defense felt like they just kind of shut it down, and felt like offensively they just didn't feel like they had, they didn't have the horses once Caleb Williams got hurt. And so, whereas Utah's team culture and the way they approach the game, not just that game, but just week in and week out, it showed through. I mean, they were so well prepared. They were so motivated, and like you said, us against the world. Once they saw that they had a chance, it just felt like it was over.
Okay, we got playoff matchups now, so you can give us your picks. How are these games going to come out?
Yeah, I mean, you get Georgia and Ohio State, which I think is an intriguing matchup. Frankly, I always feel like with Ohio State, and this is kind of what happened with that Michigan game, is that you really want C.J. Stroud and all that offense can be to just operate at such a high clip against the best defenses in the country. But it feels like sometimes they just can't quite do it, and that's my fear for them against that Georgia team, which is so good defensively, and just feels like it's. Georgia feels like they're, a head and shoulders above kind of everybody else. And so I do think Ohio State will struggle against that Georgia team. I'm excited for Michigan TCU. I think Michigan obviously, plays great defense. They're offensively having, J.J. McCarthy's really stepped up in the last couple of weeks to show that, he can throw the football and provide some balance. But TCU, even with that loss to Kansas State, it just felt, they're such a hard-nosed team. Max Duggan is, as a quarterback, you saw him battling through injury. He's a really dynamic playmaker. So that's one to me that I think has some layers that could be a really fun matchup and a fun game that, could be pretty close coming down into the fourth quarter.
All right, Alex, you guys have got a great partnership with eForce Football, eForce Fitness, with Headquarters Physical Therapy, the PT for the pros. Tell us about it.
Yeah, Headquarters PT is, the best physical therapy provider in the region for sure. I mean, their staff works with Cooper Kupp and Brandon Cooks and multiple MLB and NFL players, but, they're available to work with everyday Joes like you and me. And, they're really about taking your physical therapy journey, whether you've had an injury or you're just feeling like your body's not quite right, or you want to live an active lifestyle and not be in pain, and they help you through that journey. What's special about it is it's not, show up and see a PT for 10 or 15 minutes and then go see somebody else. You're seeing the physical therapist, the practitioner for 1 hour, getting one-on-one attention. And what's really exciting, we have 2 locations, one in Beaverton at our facility off Allen Boulevard, one in Clackamas, Milwaukee area at our other facility, and we just opened a third one for anybody that's in the Bend area. We're super excited about it. So HQPT is coming to Bend, Oregon, going to be out that way. So check out headquarterspt.com. You can talk to one of the physical therapists on the phone and, ask them questions and set up an evaluation.
Hey, Chad, I think Alex just called you an everyday Joe. Alex, you got to be careful with that.
I was going to tell him, hey, you're a lot of things. You're not an everyday Joe. You're not an everyday Joe, Alex. Sorry. But I appreciate you lumping yourself in my category. All right. You got to follow him on Twitter at AlexBrink10, eForce Football, eForce Fitness. He is our college football and NFL insider. Alex, as always, man, we appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. Have a great week.